It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome into Sports by the Book. Happy to be with you. I'm Jeff Parles. Chris Andrews alongside right now. We're live at the South Point Studio. Chris, pretty good time of year, isn't it?
I love this time of year. The only thing I would say is October is going to be even better. But you got to love this right now, too.
So don't worry, Vinny Magliulo over in the green room, as he called it.
Yeah,
just
okay.
Over on the side.
All right.
We'll get to the doubleheader tonight in the NFL in a little bit. Chris is already prepared. He's ready. Yep. Kenny Pickett,
yeah. The old Steeler jerseys are at home. I'll bring those. I'm going to wear one to the Raider game on Sunday when I go.
Well, who's it going to be?
Joe Green.
That's what I was going to say. It was a mean joke making an appearance.
Yeah.
Just get yourself a Coca-Cola. You're in good shape there.
There you go.
But just looking, we're going to talk some college. Here. Let's go back to the past weekend real quick because Vinny brought this up on Sunday. Just the handle has been wild so far through the first 3 weeks of the college football season. Last
Saturday compared to the same Saturday last year, up 40%. Yeah.
Pretty good.
And the win was good too. So yeah, just terrific.
So this week, Chris, 6 matchups of ranked teams. One matchup that, again, we don't look at the regular top 25 when handicapping, but Clemson is a top 25 caliber team.
Of course, yeah.
Even though they're not ranked. That's, again, hosting Florida State. I mean, this is just a ridiculously good card here on this fourth Saturday of the season.
Yeah, and I was just quickly marking down the games that we've moved. I think I got about 15 games that moved. This was one of them. The game opened 1.5 almost everywhere. I opened 2. I've been on Florida State in the offseason. I told you I love this team. Mm-hmm. So I opened 2. It was mostly 1.5. They gobbled up the +2. Now they laid back to 1.5. I'm back to 2, and I even see this game going to 2.5. But right now, pretty even on the game. I'm not going to go to 2.5 unless I get a bet. A lot of action already on this one. Jeff, I'm just going to run real quick. The Alabama-Mississippi game, I think it's going to be another terrific game. We're at 7 right now. I got to tell you, if I see that game drop any lower, I'm going to go lower on it because I think Mississippi is a very live dog. I think I mentioned them on one of the shows last week. Look out for Mississippi. This team can really score. And 7 right now, I'm not sure Bama's going to put up a whole ton of points. I mean, that back door is going to be wide open for a Mississippi team that can really score easily. And we got Ohio State, Notre Dame Saturday night. I'll be watching the Iowa-Penn State game myself, although I'm sure I'll be watching plenty of the other ones too. And then, of course, in the middle of the afternoon, we got Colorado and Oregon. A lot of people have been waiting for this one. But I got to tell you, I think the number's right. When I went through, I made my numbers. I made Oregon 20, and it's 21, and anybody playing bingo out there, I'm not going to dicker with the 21 versus the 20. It's going to be right there. But I think that's going to be another great game. It'll be a real test for Coach Prime's team. But I think Oregon's really, really good. They got speed like probably no one else in the country, and they're not a small team either. This is kind of a new Oregon team. So I think they're a legit national title contender.
Travis Hunter out the next 3 weeks, a lacerated liver.
Oh, that's bad.
An injury you don't hear very often. 3 weeks, at least for Hunter after that unnecessarily dirty hit from Colorado.
Yeah,
State
it was
early in the game. I just want to go back to that Oregon-Colorado game before we look at some of those other big games that you mentioned, because it has been one-way traffic on the Buffs all the way through these first few weeks. They're 3-0. They have USC next week, which, by the way, a nice 10 a.m. local time kick in Boulder next week for USC in Colorado.
Yeah.
But, Chris, I was really hoping that I know that another book opened 17 when the numbers came out. I was hoping it was going to stay closer to that. Now that we're at 21, it's basically where I would have anticipated it being, like you said.
Yeah, I even saw somebody flash a 23 at one point, and I thought that was too high.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my numbers came to 20. I'd be comfortable with that number. I'm using 21 right now. I have a feeling it's going to go down. I don't think anybody's going to be anxious to lay the 21. But I think we'll probably settle in about 20 on this game. I have a feeling we'll do a lot of money line action on Colorado. And then, of course, we'll have it'll be almost like a Super Bowl bet. You'll have some wise guys come in and find value on the money line on Oregon. But this is going to be a tremendously bet game. But like I said, you're talking about Ohio State, Notre Dame not being the most interesting game of the week. I mean, that's pretty rare.
Well, to me, it's the most interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to us, I mean, for sure. To the general public.
To the national media.
Neither of those guys was on 60 Minutes last night. So
No, Ryan Day was not on 60 Minutes. I'd say the interview with Prime a little more interesting than anything Ryan Day could cobble together. But going to that Notre Dame Ohio State game, Chris, you opened 3.5. It's now 3.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this is going to be one that's going to be a toddler the whole week.
Bite your tongue, young man.
I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, it will be. I got another game here, the Thursday night game, Georgia State and Coastal Carolina. I've been back and forth 3 times between 6.5 and 7.
Oh, great.
I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, look at this crap game with all these games we have all this week, and guys are firing like crazy on this one.
That's funny.
But 3.5 on Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think you're probably right.
For what it's worth, I think Notre Dame's going to win the game. I really do.
My numbers come to Ohio State 1.
Yeah,
so I think that's 3.5. You get a little bit of value there. Probably. Yeah. Listen, if I was out there betting, and I hate to give too many sides here. I mean, I am the bookmaker, but if I was out there betting, like I said, my numbers come to 1. I'd probably take a little bit of 3, and I'd probably try to find a decent money line on the dog.
Absolutely, for sure. You mentioned Florida State earlier. They laid the number back to 2.5 now on that one. Just from a perspective of Clemson's already lost the game this year, of course, losing the opener to Duke. It is lights out season over if they lose to Florida State.
Right.
But, Chris, I mean, Florida State really messed around last week, got lucky to beat Boston College in a game where the Eagles just kept committing penalty after penalty after penalty.
Yeah, they did not look good, and they did not play well. I'm kind of making an excuse for them. Florida boys going all the way up to Boston. Sometimes we forget that this is a conference game. It just, I don't know how long BC's been in that conference. Seems long enough where we should. I was going to say, seems long enough where we should remember that. But sometimes I tend to forget. But I think it was a bad spot. Like I said, Florida kids going up to Boston. Weather was kind of bad. So I'm making an excuse for Florida State. Listen, everybody throws in a clinker during the season. I think that's what we're looking at with Florida State. So I expect them to rebound there. And I think Clemson right now, I think there's some negativity with Dabo Swinney. I don't think he's, understood NIL, and he hasn't understood the transfer portal. And I think that's really hurt the program. But there's still a lot of talent on this Clemson team. Listen, I didn't go crazy with this one. My number came to Florida State 4. So I think it's, I think there's a little bit of value with Florida State, but, I wouldn't be going crazy over it. But if I was out there betting, I'm sure I would play them. Yeah,
I'm going to stay out of that one. That's probably one. If someone gets up 2 scores, come back the other way and take an in-game
number.
You could,
yeah.
For sure. One last one, and this is another ranked matchup. It's in a week that is full with great matchups. This one kind of gets forgotten, but UCLA does go to Salt Lake City.
Yeah,
that is a really good and important game in the Pac-12. We all right now, at least USC's to me the best team in that conference with Oregon and Washington right on their heels.
Yeah,
but UCLA and Utah are both teams that have an outside shot of making it here to Vegas for the Pac-12 title game.
I think if Utah solves their quarterback issues, I think they're going to be right there.
Yeah.
And UCLA is pretty good. I mentioned it last week on the show. You're talking about UCLA, Oregon State, Wash State. These are like middle of the road Pac-12 teams. They're really good. I mean, I think right now they are the best conference. They're better than the SEC.
Well,
they are.
And again, Wazoo and Oregon State.
Another great
playing each other. Another really
two
good
teams going to be out of whatever they're going to be. But two very good teams, and again, sort of middle of the pack or even lower half of the Pac-12, but 2 really, really good teams.
It'll be a great
game.
I really like Wazoo.
Do you really?
Getting a field goal.
Yeah.
That feels like that should be. Oregon State was a very popular long shot play in the beginning of the year in the Pac-12. Cam Ward's underrated. People don't respect how good that guy is, and DJU has been pretty good so far in Corpus.
Well, I got to tell you, we've had a lot of moves today. That was one of the movers we got bet on Oregon State.
Yeah. I'm against the market on that one.
Yeah, well, we got bet. Listen, it's Monday. These, by the time we get to Saturday, who knows where we'll be?
Hey, look, who knows? These will only be bet 2 more times. through the week here, Chris.
They sure will.
Hey, again, it's been, like you said, an unbelievable handle in college football. Obviously, the NFL handle, incredible so far through 2 weeks.
Well, I know Vinny's going to mention that when he gets on. You guys got a lot of NFL to talk about it, but our handle's good there. But I'll let Vinny. I'm not going to steal Vinny's thunder. So you guys are going to discuss NFL. I just wanted to have a few minutes to just go over this great college schedule, and I think you guys got a few NFL things to talk about as well.
Just a few. We'll see you on Friday, Chris. Of course, the Football Friday version of Sports by the Book. Vinny, Chris will be here. Jimmy will inevitably make an appearance,
I'm sure,
on Friday. But as always, Sportsbook Director here at the South Point, Chris Andrews.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Have a good one.
Talk to you soon.
Hope the Steelers get it done for you tonight.
Hope is a big one for us.
It's a big one.
Losing at home to Cleveland,
doesn't go over well usually.
No, it does not.
With the Ravens at 2-0, the Bengals at 0-2, a big game in the AFC North. When we come back, Vinny Magliulo joins the set here on Sports by the Book. Welcome back in at Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio, authentic sports talk. It's Monday, week 2, doubleheader. I'm Jeff Parles. Vinny Magliulo back from the green room. Did you get your pretzels?
Yeah, I got pretzels, a little Coke. Good. All good. Yeah. What's going on, buddy?
Good to see you.
Yeah, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Keep rolling into another week. It's week 3 already in the NFL.
Week 3 in the NFL.
Week 4
in college football.
College.
It's
nice. Good stuff.
Look, when you blink your eyes, it's going to be the middle of November.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about how I want to sneak in a first half bet in a battle of Atlantis in the middle of an NFL Thanksgiving game.
There you go, buddy.
That's where we'll be. But all right, so we'll get to the week that was in a little bit, but we have to mention it. We have 2 games tonight.
Yes.
And let's start with the one that starts in about an hour from now. So you have an hour from now to get your bets in. 7:15 East, 4:15 out here in Vegas, Charlotte, North Carolina, the site. Carolina hosting New Orleans. 3-point line, Vinny, 39.5. Saints favored on the road. Saints won, but it was ugly a week ago against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Carolina, one of the uglier performances of week 1 in the game. Then turnovers happen, and they lose comfortably in Atlanta.
Well, again, rookie quarterback, right? And we're seeing moves against rookie quarterbacks so far. Not a real shock there, right? But they were pretty competitive in for a good stretches of that game against the Falcons last week. Credit the Falcons again. We know they're 2-0. But this is a game too, Jeff, where we went to 3.5, and within 3 minutes it was gobbled. So this is a game. Obviously, we've talked about it throughout the weekend, and we'll continue to talk about it. With the the most important number in the NFL, as bookmakers, we just don't want New Orleans by 3 here. But great two-way action overall. But it's predicated on the fact that folks are laying 3 with the Saints, but taking 3.5. Pros are grabbing 3.5 whenever we get there. By the way, the total you mentioned, 39.5. That's down from we did go as high as 41 on this one.
Yeah,
but this one is down to 39.5 right now.
So far this week, 14 games, 12 overs, 2 unders.
Overs came in.
It has been a regression to the mean, as last week was a huge under week. Now the big over week here in week 2.
Again, I think last week, especially week 1, and we're going to see this throughout September. Some teams, I think you can you can figure out the identity. I think some teams are really still trying to figure that out. And September for some teams, I mean, for years, Belichick. Of course, he had a pretty good offensive coordinator who also happened to be his starting quarterback. They were able to make adjustments in September, and I think we're going to see that with several teams here. But in this one tonight, Derek Carr against the rookie quarterback. Those are the two predominant. Those are the most important positions, and the edge goes right now to the Saints. No secret, the house is going to need the Panthers tonight.
I will say this, just looking at the way that New Orleans looked in week 1, where it was clearly Derek Carr figuring out his new offensive scheme. It was a defense that took advantage of bad quarterback play on the other end from Tannehill. They escaped Well,
that
what?
game.
You're telling
Let's
me
face
that
it.
kicking a field goal
You know,
down 4 with 2.5 minutes to go isn't the smart move?
No,
I love Mike Vrabel.
How'd that
but
work?
was
How'd that
obvious at
work
the
out
time.
for the Titans?
Well, I said it to you. I was back
Sure.
there with you guys as soon as he legitimately asked you, Vinny, what did I miss here? And you and I were in agreement, and New Orleans ran the clock out.
I thought it was a replay of another game from last year, but not the case.
So props tonight, Vinny. You guys have the individual game props as you usually do on the Monday nights.
Yeah, not statistical player props. Game props easier to follow. Folks, get paid quicker. You don't have to wait for the box score to make things official and things like that. So those are ones that work out. Really good for us. Alternate point spread props, Jeff. Both teams, their totals. By the way, team total props have really taken off this year, and that's contributed. I know Chris in his spot mentioned how the college handle was up 40% last week compared to the same week a year ago. The pro handle is up 20%. I mean, that's
pretty good.
These are considerable amounts, and it's great. And it's also, again, not only our visitors, as I mentioned yesterday, but our locals who are enjoying the betting menu and get here to the South Point and enjoy the wagering menu as well. So happy to report that there. But the props are a good part of it, a nice little sidebar to the games within the game.
Vinny, I'll say this just going before we go to the game that Chris had the jersey all ready for. And what is, again, I don't want to overreact to week 2, but it is a monster game in the AFC North with everything that has happened so far with Cleveland and Pittsburgh. But just one last thing, because 3 rookie starting quarterbacks this year, obviously. Pick 1, pick 2, and pick 4. Anthony Richardson has, all things considered, looked pretty good through a quarter and a half, left the game with a concussion after 2 touchdown runs against Houston. C.J. Stroud got in a big hole yesterday, unimpressive through 2 weeks. Young was genuinely bad in week 1 in his first career start. Just when you have a rookie quarterback coming off of a bad week 1 performance in his home debut, as a bookmaker, what are you just looking for in regards to just the quarterback play from Young?
Well, I think just more stability, right, and just better reads, right? I mean, the biggest adjustment I think for these young quarterbacks, and again, so much is being put on them. Let's face it, compared to a previous generation, but there's the speed, and I think when you speak to professionals, professional ball players. Jeff, we've done that over the years, but just watching it, right? I mean, the speed and the way defenses can fly around and disguise things, right? And of course, film is a terrific equalizer, or in many cases, particularly with a young quarterback, probably a big advantage that defenses have. So, of the 3. Yeah, I would say Richardson did the best of reading the game so far. But again, he got hurt in both games. Last week he couldn't finish in week 1, and now of course he's in concussion protocol. But I think for this game here tonight, looking for Bryce Young just to that's where I think the head coach, but the offensive coordinator, let's simplify things a little bit, not make them necessarily predictable by any means, but let's try to make some adjustments to where doesn't have to, we don't have to rely on him as much as perhaps game 1 indicated.
I'm waiting for an early touchdown in this game and looking to go. That's what I'm waiting. That's the hope.
So your play would be on the total rather than the side?
So you guys are the only flat 3 in the market.
Right. There's probably money lines on the 3.
Yeah, 3
minus 15, 3 minus 20.
It's actually New Orleans 3 minus 20 at most places.
Yeah.
So Derek Carr on the road. We've not seen him be good on the road in his Vegas career. New Orleans has had a horrible time in Charlotte the last few years. So
I mentioned film. They've got film in Carolina as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I know.
So no question. Yeah,
and they have a good head coach who, again, inheriting a team that overachieved a year ago, but with a rookie quarterback that does not seem to be there already. All right, let's look at the later kick here, Vinny. And don't worry, we'll go through these multiple times. And we'll go back and look at the week that was as well through the next 35 minutes we're on here. Pittsburgh and Cleveland. You guys are sitting at 2. Browns laying it in the Steel City. This touched 3 back on Friday and has moved from the 3 to the 2. The total opened 42.5, now sitting 39 here, popping back up from 38 as of yesterday.
Yeah. So we actually went to 2 just a little while ago. We were at 2.5 this morning, and Steeler money has shown, despite the fact that Cam Hayward is out, Deontay Johnson. I mean, the Steelers have injuries. I mean, they came out of that week 1 game.
IR designate to return for Deontay Johnson.
And so, again, of course, that was against one of the teams that has not looked at all like. I mean, they've come out of the preseason extremely strong in the 49ers. Browns took care of business in their first week. This is an important game. Chris Andrews hit on a very key point. This is a division game. The Browns looking to go 2-0 within the division, and with the victory in Week 1 over Cincinnati. They played very well. I thought. I mean, so credit them. People could say, well, the Bengals did not look good in Week 1. I don't think the Bengals look good in Week 2 either. Let's face it. And we'll get to them when we do. We look at the Week 3 numbers. But look, this is a game again with the Browns. It was all about the Browns. Did get a sniff at 3, but it's a lot of Steeler money coming in today, respected money as well, and now starting to tick up at 39.
So the AFC North right now, Ravens are 2-0. Bengals are 0-2 with 2 in-divisional losses.
Yes.
Cleveland with an opportunity to send Pittsburgh to 0-2 with 2 divisional wins of their own. And again, I don't want to overreact. Week 2. There are 15 games left for everyone after tonight. But if Cleveland wins tonight, puts Pittsburgh behind a big-time 8-ball. 2 home losses for the Steelers if they lose tonight. Granted, they'll have another home game here in Vegas next week.
You're saying there'll be some black and gold in the stands?
A few terrible towels will make their way.
I'm going to say I think half the staff is going to be there. So
half the staff, but
just South Point staff.
I will say that I will say this, Vinny. For Cleveland to win tonight, Deshaun Watson is going to have to play better than he did in the week.
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson did not play well at all. They won that game last week because Cincinnati was not ready to play. And Cleveland's defense
was good, Jeff.
Great last week. If they can give a similar effort, and look, they made Burrow hold the ball last week. That was the issue more than anything. If the Brown defense can be up to the task like they were a week ago, they're more talented than the Steelers.
Well, there's no question.
Argument on that.
No question about it. I mean, we're talking about young quarterbacks. I mean, Kenny Pickett is the same. He had a terrific preseason, but was not good against the Niners. And again, the Niners are good. I mean, let's face it. I mean, probably maybe you can make an argument that they're the best team in the NFL, not just the NFC. So the thing is here again, a better game plan, maybe a simpler game plan, especially given the injuries for the Steelers. But I've got to tell you, the Browns won their game last. They had timely scoring, but it was their defense. I thought that made the difference last week, as you pointed out. So. We're gonna need both dogs tonight. So both home dogs.
Split. I think it's a split.
Well, it's always a good split. You think it's a split?
I think it's a split. I think one of these dogs is winning outright, and one of them is losing.
Which one?
I'm not sure.
Oh, geez, that doesn't
I'm
help
not sure.
me.
If you make
doesn't help me.
Here's what I'll say. I'm more inclined to bet Pittsburgh than I am Carolina. That's all I'll say.
Second-year quarterback and even with the injuries, a little better defense.
I'd rather have, and again, they're both divisional games. And I'm not a fan of this New Orleans team. I think were overrated by the market because they play in a bad division. Well, and when you play in a bad division, you can get overvalued. Look, New Orleans, to me, if you put New Orleans in the NFC East, okay, they'd be the 3rd best team in that division at best right now.
I think when you looked at the season, and the reason that the Saints were the favorites for the NFC South, again, this is going into the season, right? So all summer long. probably the most experienced quarterback, right? Of the teams in that division.
All four teams in that division were starting a new quarterback this year.
And again, Carr, the most experienced quarterback, right?
Yep.
Transitioning. But now when you look at it, listen, Atlanta, they compete, they battle.
They're well coached.
And they're very well coached, no question about it. I think Carolina is well coached as well. Look, when you consider everything that's going on and how it's quite balanced. Baker Mayfield has been terrific. Look at Tampa.
2-0.
I have to tell you, Baker Mayfield's vibe, I think, has permeated that team. I mean, Tampa's defense is still good. When you look at, and I know we've got these, they're not playing tonight, but the reality is they're playing next week in prime time, Tampa, against Philly. Baker Mayfield is a warrior, and he got run out. He got run out in Cleveland. Let's face it. But the guy played hurt. He never took a playoff. He's got a lot to do with the success. His drive has got a lot to do with the Buccaneers' success so far.
And look, if he's going to play well, Tampa again. I had Tampa as one of the worst teams in the league going into the year. I'm already wrong on that. I'm already conceding defeat.
Yeah.
But that will be a big spot for Philly, who has not looked particularly good, even though they're 2-0, going on the road in prime time next week.
And by the way, that game did open again, another doubleheader next Monday night.
Yep.
We opened that game 6.5 last night here at the South Point. It's down to 6, so it was a take. It wasn't like
5.5 now, Vinny.
Folks were waiting. Yeah, 5.5 now. They were. Anybody who thought they were going to get 7 on that game, highly unlikely. So, look, the thing about it, Jeff, is, and a full disclosure too, because we've been asked this over the years. Would you rather have a doubleheader on Mondays or the Thursday night game? I mean, you want NFL. It'd be great to have it all the time. But you know what? Monday night doubleheaders gives you chills, don't it?
I wish we went back to I get the staggered. I understand why they do it because they want to put one of the games on ABC like they're doing tonight with that AFC North game.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we went back to the 7:00 Eastern kick and then the 10:15 Eastern kick.
So
we used to do back in the day in week 1.
So 4 and 7 Pacific.
Yeah. I'm all in on that. 7:00 Raider game here. That'd be great.
Yeah,
I'm down for that.
Nothing wrong with it. I mean, we've got. Listen. Being here in this time zone gives us a lot more viewing enjoyment.
Yeah, gives us some
right. Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to look back at the week that was in week 2. We'll keep you updated with any line movement going on, and also, Vinny. I don't know. Will Vinny sing today? Maybe not. Who knows? Never know. See. Just making sure you're listening.
You want to sing some Italian songs?
Just making sure you're listening there. We keep it rolling. Sports by the book here at the South Point studio. Welcome back in. It's the South Point studio. Sports by the book is the show. I'm Jeff Parles. Vinny Magliulo alongside. Happy to be with you as always. Leading you into week 2's Monday Night Football matchups. Again, Vinny, if people are just tuning in, quick update for everyone. Carolina, 3-point underdogs at home tonight against New Orleans here at the South Point. 39.5 the total on that one. Cleveland, a 2-point favorite on the road in Pittsburgh, 39. A rarity. 2 divisional home dogs here tonight.
2 division home dogs. We're going to need both dogs. And why is that? Well, I always say this about Monday, but I have to describe why. All right, Thursday, we kick off the week, but Thursday is the fuse, right? That lights the fuse for the weekend. It starts all the multi-leg bets, the parlays, the teasers, cards, and things like that. So there's not as big a decision on Thursday night. Sunday night game has that big decision because everything from Sunday is going to it. Monday has that, everything from Thursday coming to it. So Thursday lights the fuse. Monday's the explosion. Usually, particularly if everything is one side. And again, so you look at yesterday, which ties into today as well, right? A good morning, the 10 a.m. Pacific games for the house. Afternoon and last night on Sunday Night Football, in Foxborough with the Dolphins winning and covering was great for the bettors. So the bettors anticipating tonight and are in a good spot. And if you're in a position with, let's say, the Saints or the Browns, then perhaps you looked at maybe 3.5 if you had the opportunity when it got to 3.5, which didn't last long. Again, if it gets to 3.5, don't contemplate too long because it's not going to last. Don't blink. So, from the house's perspective, that's what we need. And if it happens, terrific. If it's a split, whatever it is, whatever the results, though, we'll pay with a smile and get ready for week 3.
I'm going to say you'll be all right.
You think so? I'm pretty confident, buddy.
I think you'll be all right, regardless of the.
Listen, always remember this. Here at the South Point, the lights are always on.
It's true. All right, going back to the week that has been so far, Vin.
Uh-huh.
Let's start in Cincinnati because it was another lackadaisical performance from the Bengals. They go to 0-2 for the second consecutive year. Baltimore gets it done 27-24, winning outright as an underdog on the road. The Ravens are 2-0, despite not having their A game in either of the first 2 games so far, Vinny. But the big one out of this is that Joe Burrow at the end of the game had the massage gun on his calf. Mm-hmm. Zach Taylor today saying it's too soon to tell if he's going to be able to play in week 3, and they have an extra day because it's Monday Night Football against the Rams. And Vinny, that has been a line that has moved way the heck down with the news of what Taylor said earlier today, saying, hey, I don't know if our guy's going to be ready. All the way down here to 1.5 on Cincinnati Monday night next week against the Rams.
Yeah, we opened this game 6 last night, right? I mean, we saw him go off yesterday, and I believe it's the same calf that was plaguing him early and throughout the entire preseason. So, look, they look completely out of sync right now, right? And again, you don't want to overreact and write the Bengals off. There's too much talent there for that. So, but the thing I thought you brought up a key point. The fact that the Ravens have not been great, particularly offensively, they've gotten it done, and they are in fact 2-0. So opportunistic defense, a good defense, and took control yesterday. I mean, that game was another game that we talk about that key number. It was 3.5 all week with the Bengals favored, but Ravens came out on top.
There are a lot of bigger favorites in week 3. Just looking at the early numbers, I'll just run through a few of them. San Francisco, Thursday night, 10.5-point favorites against the Giants.
Barkley
out, sprained ankle. Not a high ankle sprain, but he's still going to miss a few weeks for the Giants. Jacksonville, right now, here at the South Point, 9.5-point favorites against 0-2 Houston.
You'll see 10 on that game.
I would imagine we might even see more than 10
probably
by the time that game kicks off. You guys open this. You opened Miami 7, correct?
That's correct. They did
take the 7.
They took the 7. I believe there'll be Dolphin money here again for their home opener. So getting back home, and the Broncos,
not good, Vinny.
They have not looked good at all. And I have to tell you, I get the sense that there is, I'm not going to say a disconnect. Sean Payton's taken a different approach to Russell Wilson than I think Russell Wilson's used to. So we're going to see how that plays out.
Seems like it is that Sean Payton just does not trust his quarterback. And they started out yesterday. They were up 21-3.
Yep.
You and I and Chris basically tuned out of that game for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, that hit on Logan Thomas that led to the ejection woke the Commanders up. And Washington comes back and wins despite their best efforts to blow the game late.
Credit Washington. Talk about teams that are 2-0.
Yeah,
they're one of them. So
one of them.
Credit them. Broncos. There's issues there, and I get the sense that that the chemistry is just not there, and just don't see the fire with that team.
No, not at all. I'm in agreement on that. A team that is going the wrong way, and I would be very surprised if Russell Wilson is the quarterback there next year as well. Other big lines. This opened 6.5, touched 7, back to 6.5. Now Buffalo favored at Washington. Commanders 2-0. Bills 1-1 off of their thumping of the Raiders yesterday.
Yeah. Again, I think the Bills are still trying to figure out some things too, right? So Josh Allen, we talked about them getting some things right. offensively. I thought their defense played good against the Jets, actually, and of course they played well yesterday. But look, the thing about Josh Allen is just he doesn't need to take as many hits as he does, and I think that's something that's going to have to get sorted out particularly as we get further into the season. But yeah, here they are, the Washington Commanders at 2-0 at home as a touchdown favorite against the Buffalo Bills.
Baltimore 8 against Indianapolis. We don't know what's going to happen when Anthony Richardson left the game with a concussion yesterday. They were so far out in front that Minshew didn't have to do too much yesterday in a win in Houston.
Minshew, look, he's serviceable. Let's face it.
Perfectly fine backup.
Right? There's nothing wrong with Gardner Minshew. So, again, but again, 8-point favorites at home. We look at these games and you say, well, they're look-ahead spots. Pros don't look ahead the way college teams tend to do. So I'm not saying that's the case. Again, we're still in September. I think there are teams that are trying to figure things out, and I think that the Ravens are certainly in that, particularly offensively.
Good week to have a survivor entry alive. That's all I'll say.
Well, yeah.
Potentially. On paper, at least, it looks good.
Well, I guess it depends, but, you still have to, depending on your survivor contest,
You have to figure out
what happens with Thanksgiving and
those holidays
and Christmas, right?
Yeah. I know the Jaguars don't play on either.
No.
You don't have to worry about them.
No.
And that one. Dallas.
It's funny. Just to back up, just a few years ago, the Jags were to play against.
No, now they're not.
Right? Let's face it.
Now they're not.
Yeah.
Dallas is 12.5 at Arizona. Now, Vinny, I'll just ask you this. Because Dallas has been arguably the most impressive team in the NFL. So I would say San Francisco has been.
Yeah.
But Dallas
is right there.
Dallas outscoring opponents 70-10.
No. Wait a second. They're outscoring New York 70-10.
Those are opponents.
Okay. Let's face it. They're probably disappointed that they're not playing
I don't think they're disappointed.
Rutgers.
Hey, same colors, basically, with Arizona. I'll say this, Vinny. I don't love eating chalk with them normally. But if Dallas decides to play in this game, which is look, Dallas, the schedule gets significantly more difficult after this. New England could be 0-3 and playing basically for their whole season in week 4. San Francisco, which, by the way, what a great game that looks like. That's going to be the second Sunday of October out in Santa Clara. But Arizona played as well as they humanly could for 2.5 quarters yesterday and still blew a 3-touchdown lead to Daniel Jones.
21-3?
28-7. 28-7 midway through the third quarter, and they still blew it.
That's right. 28-3 was Denver, yeah.
I'll just ask you this, Vinny, because I have a feeling that the Sharps will probably be on the underdog, as it is shown.
They've taken 13.
They took the 13.
Yeah.
I just wonder when we get closer to kick, because this is the later afternoon kick, if people are just going to be like, wait a second, how is Dallas only less than 2 touchdowns against this Arizona team? And the public just comes roaring in on Dallas.
The public, they'll be on the Cowboys in this one. No, there's no question about it. I mean, and again, it wasn't the public that took 13. And again, what's the biggest difference between professional bettors and public bettors is professionals bet numbers. They don't bet teams.
Right.
It's not like they're betting on the Cardinals. I mean, trust me when I tell you. Again, this is a Sunday game. You bet them early. You took 13 early, and maybe you go to 2 masses next Sunday. So.
And then the biggest, if I told you before the year that in a week that featured Dallas and Arizona and Jacksonville and Houston and Baltimore and Indy, that the Chicago Bears would be the biggest underdog on the board in week. Yes, it is against Kansas City in Arrowhead. Brutal spot with Kansas City already blowing a home game this year to Detroit. But that is just, Vinny, it is a testament to how bad Chicago has looked through 2 weeks. That the Bears are this big of an underdog this quickly into the season in Kansas City.
The exact opposite of the previous game. They laid 12.5 and now up to 13.
They're laying it with the Chiefs.
So the Chiefs, considerable favorites here. There were a lot of high hopes. There were folks that felt that the Bears were going to not only be better, but prevail in that division, especially with Aaron Rodgers gone. I mean, the school of thought that the Vikings were not going to go undefeated in one-score games. And that that's why the Lions were pretty much the favorites there. Of course, they're 1-1. But the Bears. Here's the thing with the Bears: too many. First, it starts with the quarterback. Fields takes way too many sacks. It has not gotten rectified. And I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying, in his mind, I think he feels like he's got to make just about every play. And similar. A similar style to Josh Allen, or I think Josh Allen's a better passer, but Josh Allen also has more weapons. And I think, but that's what you're seeing here. The Chiefs, they're going to get plenty of play in every way, shape, and form, including parlays and teasers.
The Bears have had 2 designed run plays for Fields 2 weeks. Obviously, yesterday, Vinny, I'm sure you saw it after the game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneer defenders in the post-game interviews were like, we knew the second screen in a row was coming, and that's what ended the game.
Fields is their leading rusher?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so.
If your quarterback's your leading rusher, that's,
unless if it's old school.
Unless you're Fran Tarkenton.
Well, 2003 Michael Vick. That's basically it.
Okay, but that caught up to them too, right? I mean, so... but it's difficult here. It's a difficult task for the Bears, and again, that's one where, what is the threshold to take? Probably 14.
A lot of interesting survivor choices for this week. That's all I will say, Vinny. And I am just looking at the big favorites. I will be laying at least one of them. It's just a matter of which one I end up.
Okay.
And I'll be taking the dog in one of them.
You'll have choices.
But I will. I'll save that for next Sunday.
We like to provide choices here.
We do like to provide. We as you've said, I don't have to bet all of them. You have to book them all.
We got to book them all. You don't have to. You don't have to bet them all.
No.
So, and then you've got the opportunity in games like that too, Jeff, with the in game, right? So 100%. It's always a viable option.
We're going to take one last break. When we come back, final update on the 2 games tonight: Carolina and New Orleans in game 1, Pittsburgh and Cleveland in game 2. 2 games to end week 2 as we wrap things up here. Sports by the Book at the South Point studio. Welcome back in. Final segment for us, Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio, Authentic Sports Talk. I'm Jeff Parles, Vinny Magliulo, alongside, always here on these Mondays throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
Vinny.
Good stuff, buddy. Doubleheader.
It's always fun. It's always more fun when you have multiple games. Doubleheader next Monday, too.
Love it.
So you guys are pleased with it.
It's always great. NFL, the number one betting sport. I mean, college has made great strides, particularly in recent years, but everybody gets involved with the NFL. Everybody loves the NFL. And from our perspective, our side of the counter, a doubleheader on Monday night culminating, for the entire week is terrific. And, of course, now, and people are, I always say that Thursday is that lights that fuse and gets the week on, but there are folks that are taking tonight's games, either one or both, and tying them into next week as well.
All right, Vinny.
Consistent rollover.
I just want to ask you this. Let's, for the sake of this, give Cleveland and New Orleans wins tonight favorite, okay?
Okay.
2-0 teams in the NFL. If Cleveland and New Orleans both win tonight.
Okay.
Miami, Baltimore. Cleveland wins. Cleveland is in that grouping. Dallas, Philly, Commanders. Atlanta, Tampa, if New Orleans win, New Orleans. And the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Of the groupings of the 2-0, who is the one team that you, the bookmaker, does not believe in? And then at the top of the list, the number 1 team in the power ratings going through this week. When you'll have to redo them.
I would say that there'll be probably a regression with Washington.
I would agree.
And again, that's not a criticism. I'm just looking at, who they played and how they won, and a look at the quarterback situation. I still think that right now San Francisco is the top team, but the Cowboys are very good. Cowboys, their defense. What's the thing about the Cowboys is I think that Mike McCarthy is very comfortable in his role as play caller, Quinn is a terrific defensive coordinator. So, again, not anointing them after 2 weeks, but I think when you watch them, you've got to kind of try to pick up on a team's vibe. And I think there's a good vibe right there. And obviously everything is predicated on health, too. Let's face it, right? So, but I would say the Niners at the top and the Cowboys are second. They're playoff teams. Particularly if the quarterbacks are healthy.
For the unbeatens, Tampa to me will regress.
Although they're better than we thought.
They're much
I think they're better than Washington.
They're much better than we thought because that defense is much. I thought they were just too old. They don't look too old through 2 weeks.
No,
and they're forcing turnovers.
As the season goes on, though, and you know something, the division that we've seen is better, as we talked about in the previous segment.
Yeah.
So the division's better than initially thought.
0-2 teams. If Pittsburgh and Carolina lose tonight, they'll be included in this group as well. New England 0-2. Cincinnati 0-2. Houston 0-2. Denver and the LA Chargers 0-2. Minnesota, Chicago, Arizona, the NFC 0-2. Vinny, I'll just say this. I'm going to forget about Cincinnati for a second because if Joe Burrow's not healthy, they're in. Well,
it changes.
Changes the way that you look at them.
Changes the entire.
If Burrow's out,
situation,
they're done. That's just the way it is. They'll lose on Monday with Jake Browning, and they'll be 0-3, and we'll be able to forget about that. The LA Chargers have absolutely no excuse to be 0-2, and they are 0-2. And to me,
poor defense is not an excuse. It's just poor defense.
Well, they're poorly coached. That's all it is. Because they have enough pieces defensively to be a reasonable defense, and Tua threw for 466 yards against them in week 1. Mm-hmm. And Tennessee, who has no offense, put 27 on them yesterday.
Again, it's the defense that I think is the question mark, right? Let's face it. If you ask the same question as to the 0-2 teams who can right the ship, there's too much talent. There's too much talent with the Chargers and the Bengals, and again, in the case of the Bengals, predicated on Burrow's health. The 0-2 teams that we've seen that are, I want to say, playing to form that we kind of figured. Certainly the Cardinals, although they battle. I mean, they battled in Washington in week 1, and they battled, and they had that a 3-touchdown lead against the Giants yesterday. Texans, we know that they're rebuilding, although C.J. Stroud again, these are professionals, right? So, look, I think when you look at the Vikings, no running game.
Regression to the mean on Minnesota.
And again, I think the school of thought was absolutely spot on by bettors and bookmakers that they were not going to duplicate the same success in close games that they did a year ago.
They're 0-2. They play the Chargers, by the way, on Sunday in a game where who will make the more ridiculous mistake in order to lose the game bowl. And that's a pick, right? That's a pick now, Vinny, or the Chargers?
Yeah. The Chargers and Vikings are a pick.
Perfect. Exactly what it should be.
In Minnesota. Well, we opened the Chargers 1, they took it.
Yeah.
So it's, they took the one with the Vikings.
It's the biggest no thank you game of the 3 weeks for me.
But you know what? That's not going to stop people from betting.
Oh, people will bet.
Right? There's always something for somebody.
Can I bet that?
You want to bet a push?
One of Chris's favorite stories of whoever it was back in the day taking the half on the pick and the game landing a tie.
We have to have Chrissy come in to tell that.
That's
story.
One of my favorite stories of all time on that one.
It's the greatest.
All right, before we go, Vinny, final thoughts for tonight. Again, New Orleans 3 against Carolina. That game starts in 20 minutes. 39.5 the total. Looks like you took some over money in the last few minutes on Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Up to back to 39.5 on the total. Still 2. Cleveland laying it in Steel City.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what we're looking for here, Jeff, is we don't need the Saints by exactly 3 because what we'll have to do is pay everything, that on the 3.5 and then refund everything else. So, but overall, great betting game with everything from the weekend going to it, and then the Steeler game. got as high. It sniffed 3 real quick, but it's been mostly Steeler money in the last couple of hours. We were at 2.5 right before we came on the air at 3:00 Pacific, and now down to 239.5. So starting to see some over money in this game.
I like the Steelers tonight.
That's your dog.
I think I prefer that in the end, just because Carolina. I mean, Young just looked so bad last week, and even though it's Carr and Dennis Allen on the road in a divisional game,
there you go.
I think Pittsburgh more likely to get it done than Cleveland tonight. Even though it looks like Amari Cooper will play, that is the latest report.
Okay,
that Cooper dealing with an injury from practice on Saturday, but it looks like Amari Cooper will go for the Cleveland Browns. That's all the time we have here. It's been Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. For Vinny Magliulo, I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again on Thursday, 3:00 Pacific time, previewing the Giants and the Niners and everything ahead in college football and NFL weeks.